Tuesday. We welcome to the program now Representative Robert Johnson. He serves, of course, in the Mississippi House of Representatives as the minority leader, represents District 94, which incorporates Adams, Franklin, and Jefferson counties. Representative Johnson, good to see you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. So we got the 2024 session getting underway next Tuesday. It's hard to believe we're inside of a week when you guys will be down there at the Capitol. Tell us what some of your priorities are.
Well, you know, we feel like it's a new start. We got a good year coming. The state has a surplus of money. Our priorities hadn't changed. We want to help work on the things that people care about. People care about their water, sewer, their infrastructure. Recently, well, in the last couple of years, Mississippi has gotten for their infrastructure report card that includes transportation, broadband, water, sewer. It was a D+, and that's not any fault of any particular agency in the state of Mississippi. It's a matter of resources and the fact that we suffer from the same thing that people all over the country do, and we have outdated infrastructure issues, water, sewer, all over the state. I know we hear a lot about Jackson, but a lot of small towns have outdated, old, 120-year-old pipes and pumps and things that need to be replaced. The Jobs Act, the Investment in Infrastructure Jobs Act that was passed in 2021 provided $4.5 billion to the state of Mississippi. And we've allocated about $2.5 billion of that, but we're still working on things I think are important. People want good roads. They want to be able to get back and forth to work. They want to be able to have safe water they can drink. And so we want to prioritize making sure that we do what we're elected to do, and that's provide services. People want public safety. We want to do that. But we also have a responsibility to make sure that working people, I'm talking about working poor people, a guy that lives in Ruralville, Mississippi, who's a plumber, who doesn't have access to health care. You want that person to stay healthy. And so we finally got the governor to get on board about doing something. But we think that the fact that there's a lot of access to things out there that provide that kind of health coverage to people to keep a healthy workforce going. So we're going to continue to work on that issue, continue to make sure that no matter where you live as a child, that you should not be penalized because of where you live and low tax base, that you should be able to have access to a great public education. We want to make sure we do that. And so, I mean, I think those are the things that people care about. Those are the things that touch you and give you an opportunity to improve your life and create an environment in one of the hardest working states in this country for people who are salt of the earth. And we want to make sure we take care of them. So those are the things we care about. Okay. And the last thing I want to mention is we want to make sure we give the right for people to put their issues on a ballot. The ballot initiative needs to be restored to the people of the state of Mississippi. And I had some talks with some leadership in the House, and it's a bipartisan idea that we need to get that done. So that's where we are.
Okay. Well, appreciate that. Good rundown there. So with respect, let's talk about health care first. With respect to health care, are you thinking in terms of Medicaid expansion as the route to achieve the goal of extending coverage to the working population that are currently uninsured? You got something else in mind?
Well, you know, it's been called by many names. What I do know, and I like the public to know, is there's $1 billion. The same place that we get the $5 billion that we fund Medicaid with now, of which it's about $6 billion, but about 10% of that comes from the state. That same resource is available to us now. And even the governor has acquiesced and acknowledged that something needs to be done. And he has a plan to access those resources. I don't think it's a very good plan. I mean, his plan requires us to invest, our hospitals invest over $145 million to get $750 million back, when there's $1 billion out there with a whole lot less of an investment from the state. But thinking in terms of that, but that'll be that idea. Whatever we do will be orchestrated by the leaders in the House and the Senate. And what I feel confident about, and what I'm encouraged about, is the presumed new speaker, Jason White, and the lieutenant governor have acknowledged that something very detailed needs to be done.
Yeah. Well, I think it's certainly going to be something that is going to receive a lot of attention, a lot of deliberation, a lot of debate. And I think it's going to take some smart folks to put their brain power to work to try to devise some solutions to address the underlying problem. Let's.
Speaking of smart folks, you want to come over and help us with that?
Well, I would be honored, obviously, and willing to do anything I can to help, sir. And you and I have talked before, and you know that. So if I get a call, I'll do whatever I can to help. No doubt about it. I will tell you that I'm writing a very comprehensive, rather lengthy article about healthcare in the state right now, and I'm sharing some possible ideas, but I'm kind of ending the piece with saying now's the time to get the brain power, the brain trust of the state around the table, and they've got to represent a variety of disciplines. It can't just be people from the healthcare industry. It can't just be people that are in the Capitol. We need a lot of different people that come from the various aspects of our state because they're all affected by this, as you know. So I do anything I can. I appreciate that. So let's talk about the ballot measure process. You're right. I will say, Representative Johnson, I hear that probably as much as I do anything in the public, and certainly on the text line here at the show, that people want to see that restored. We got a gap between what the House feels like is appropriate in terms of the number of signatures to get a measure on the ballot, and the Senate. Do you think we can close that gap and get something done there?
Well, I hope that the public pressure, and I'm glad you acknowledge that people are calling and texting into your show talking about that issue, because I hear it publicly all the time.
Yeah.
And I hope that public pressure finds itself to the state House. The House passed a pretty simple bill. It required more signatures, but it didn't have the restrictions in it that the Senate had proposed. So we would hope that the Senate would get on board. I don't have a problem requiring more signatures. Some people say, why are we doing that? If it's going to make it a more thorough and more trustworthy process, that's fine.
Yeah.
What I don't want to see is us limit what people can put on it. I think the voters in this state and the citizens of this state are smart enough to know what they want, and I think we ought to give them access. If they can get the signatures to get it, I think we ought to provide that. But in answer to your question, yes, I think we're going to close that gap.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds good. Well, hopefully we get something done there. And I say that because, again, I think people would like to see that restored. They've been, as you know, without a process for the last 2 years, and they want to bring it back. We may run out of time here, but if you can hang around, I'd like to continue the discussion. But I wanted to get to the issue of education. And what I heard you say there sounded awfully akin to universal school choice. Is this something you're on board with, or tell me what you think we should do? Where do you stand legislatively on that?
The short answer is I don't have a problem with, say, community schools or way for kids. I just want the resources to stay, the taxpayer resources to stay with public education. Okay. So you would not support then an education savings account that would allow a student that's currently enrolled in the public school to direct the funding that the state provides to their public school to direct that to, say, a private school where they can attend? I would not be. I would not be in support of that.
Okay. Well, what about if they wanted to attend another public school, just a different public school? You can do that today, but this requires a process to get that done.
I think there's room for that, and I think that if we, again, back to your original idea of putting heads together, we put heads together, come up with a plan that will not cause districts to be unnecessarily adversely affected. I think that I have looked at some ideas about that, and I think that's workable.
Okay. All right. So so I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. You don't support the sort of the universal school choice concept where everyone basically has control over the funds that the state allocates to their particular pupil, and they can choose the education setting of their choice, but you're looking for maybe something a little more limited where perhaps a student could opt to attend a different public school, public to public sort of transfer.
To the extent that we are pushed to find common ground, the latter thing that you described is something that we could talk about. Okay,
I got you. Well, I appreciate your candor there. If you can hang around, we can continue continue the discussion, I want to get your thoughts on the governor's top priority, which is elimination of the income tax. See where you stand on there. And then the lieutenant governor has made it clear that his top priority is a state-funded, essentially free community college. Get your thoughts on that and anything else you got going on as well coming up. You good with that, Representative Johnson?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, sounds good. We'll talk to you on the other side of the break. Stay with us, folks. We're in the Element Well studio. We're talking to Representative Robert Johnson. He serves as the minority leader in the Mississippi House of Representatives, represents District 94, which incorporates Adams, Franklin, and Jefferson counties. Just talking about the upcoming legislative session. So before we went to the break there, Representative Johnson, I just mentioned that the governor, I think it's been pretty clear that total elimination of the state's income tax is, if not his top priority. What do you think about that? Of course, we got some tax reform done a couple of sessions ago. It fell short, as you know, of full elimination, but it did eliminate the 4% bracket, and it will phase in elimination of 1% of the 5% bracket, so that we'll end up with a single 4% bracket now in 3 years. What do you think about tax reform?
Well, when the House first proposed tax reform, I was on board with Speaker Gunn. I thought the original House plan was a great plan. It provided balance, and I think it found the inefficiencies in our tax system, even though I think there's a great deal of more study that was needed. But it also, it eliminated a great deal of the income tax, and it worked on ways that we would have a more balanced tax structure. As the process evolved, I think we ended up with a plan that was not as good, and I think it's one that I think out of an abundance of caution, the plan was put in place to be phased in, where we could see the effect. Now, I've been in the legislature 30 years, and that may be too long, but long enough to see that I've known when we've been flush with cash, and I've seen when it was short with cash. But what I do know is that neither one of them lasts forever. And now we're flush, and there's going to be a budget crisis at some point. And I think that the financial committee leaders in the House and the Senate displayed a great deal of wisdom by phasing in a process where you get a chance to see how it works, what it looks like, and what we could afford. I think jumping in a hurry to do a full elimination right now is something that we need to wait and see how the phase-in works. And let me say this. I think the elimination of the state income tax is probably an inevitability, but given the politics here in this state, I think it's going to happen. But I think that that's something that we should take our time on. As I stated earlier, we have major infrastructure issues in this state, and if there's a surplus, it should be spent on anything, something that helps industry, that helps people create jobs. I talk to supervisors, city leaders, people who work every day, and what they care about is they want a better, they want their first responders to be paid better, where they can have better people working for those services. They want better law enforcement. That's going to take better starting pay, those kind of things. I think those things are important, and they want good roads and bridges, and they want improved water resources and water sewer resources. And I think those are the things that we need to focus on. I'm telling you, I'm not just talking about. I just talk to Democrats. I talk to people. I was all over this state this summer, and when I talk to people, those are the things they want to talk about. They don't want to talk about income tax. They don't want to talk about transgender or abortion. But they want to talk about, hey, man, I got to go to work every day. This is the road I live on. It makes it hard for me. When I talk to people in industry, they care about how they get their products in and out. And I think that when you look at the real purpose of government is to provide the basic services. And if we do that, and then we can start thinking about some other things. But that's what I feel about that. I'm not saying that the governor's idea is a bad idea. I'm just saying that this is not the time.
Okay. All right. So, there's been a lot of discussion about either total elimination or reduction of the sales tax on groceries. Do you think that that's a better idea than adjusting the income tax? Maybe a combination of the two. What do you think about that?
I'm probably going to get in trouble as a Democrat saying this. Again, even with if there's a tax that needs to be reduced or eliminated, it is the one that what people have to eat. And so if you can eliminate the growth, that does make sense.
Okay.
And again, we go back to the original House plan. That was something that we had folded in. Now, we get a lot of pushback from cities who say if you do that, that's a big part of our tax base. We won't be able to provide the services. And so if we eliminate any tax that we eliminate, we got to figure out how to fill in that gap. And so none of it is just as simple as, get rid of it. And I got in trouble on the campaign trail this summer saying, hey, look, I don't want to talk about that right now. What I want to talk about is what you need. And so, I just think all of that, we should take the time, just like you talk about with healthcare, put the people at the table from all different walks of life. Governor Barber did this, I guess, in his first or second term. He had a tax study committee, and we met all summer, almost all the year, and we brought in economists. We brought in there's a tax study out there that the governor commissioned.
Yeah.
And I think if we're going to do it, if we're going to make any more elimination of any other tax or any tax reform, let's take the time to do what Governor Barber did. Put people at the table who know what they're doing from all walks of life, experts, economists, scientists, and figure out what works, what doesn't work, and let's put something together. But just coming in, I respect my colleagues, but you don't want the legislature just nakedly coming up with an idea about how to eliminate the income tax, or the governor for that matter.
Okay.
So I would like to see a study committee and people put some time into it.
Okay, fair enough. What about the lieutenant governor's push to make community college in the state free, no cost? What do you think about that?
Well, and I'm going to get in trouble for this too. Delbert Holden may be one of our oldest legislators, but he thinks like a young man.
Okay.
Young people care about being able to afford college. They want to be able to finish college, junior. They can start out with junior college, but if they can finish with half the debt that they have now, that would go a long way into keeping people here in the state. People being able to have money to buy homes or put money back into the economy. So I think anything we can do to make education or secondary education or higher education more affordable to people, and I think that's a great idea. I think that money, that investment comes back to you.
Okay. All right. You've talked a lot about just discussions you've mentioned anecdotally you've had with constituents that are concerned about roads and infrastructure and so forth. Is there anything there, Representative Johnson, that you're thinking about the state should take action on with respect to this physical infrastructure?
Yeah, I've said for years, I grew up in Natchez, and I represent Natchez. Grew up there. I've been there all my life. And the whole time growing up, everything about Natchez, and I thought it was true about the state of Mississippi, and I later found out it's true about the country. Rivers, water, transportation makes all the difference in the world. One of our greatest resources, we're bordered by the greatest river in the state of in the country. Mm-hmm. And for the life of me, I can't understand why we don't focus more attention on the area along the river where we could take advantage of that natural transportation resource to create more industry for this state. And everywhere you go in the country, if there's a river, you're going to find some industry. Mm-hmm. But in this state, for some reason, we spend more time focusing on the interior than in areas where we could, not only where the need is the greatest, but where the resources, land, water, rail, they're all there. And so I would just like to see, and I mean, I'm not an economist, and I'm not a economic developer, but I've read enough about it to know that all those things add to your ability to create jobs and create a better living environment and working environment for the people in this state. I think that's where it starts. And so one of the things I'd like to see from the leadership in this state, the governor's office, and the legislature is a refocus on creating industry and jobs in areas where we can take advantage of those natural resources.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so what I'm hearing there, which I applaud you for, is a strong interest in continuation of scaling the state's economy, and I think that's something that the governor certainly always has in focus. About 30 seconds left, Representative Johnson. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that's one thing I can applaud the governor. He tries real hard, works real hard at creating an environment where we can attract industry and jobs.
Yeah.
I just think he's missing an opportunity. I think the leadership in the House and Senate is, and I think I'd like to see them and work together with them to create opportunity in those areas.
I'm with you. Let's keep talking about that. I appreciate you coming on, Representative Robert Johnson. Thank you, sir. I hope you have the happiest of New Year's, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you down at the Capitol. Take care.
Absolutely. Thank you. You take care.
We're coming right back, folks, in the Element Wealth